Aloha, and welcome to this presentation of the Vegan Society of Hawaii. Well, today, we're delighted to have with us Meryl Fury, RNMS, and she's going to be speaking to us about whole food, plant-based nutrition for children and adults alike. Aloha, Meryl.
So happy to be here. Thank you all for coming. And if I can ever get 10 people in a room that want to hear about child nutrition, I'm ecstatic. So thank you all so much. My name is Meryl Fury. As Lorraine said, I'm a registered nurse. I've got my master's in nursing, and my specialty is actually public health. I spent literally zero time in a hospital. That was not the best location for me. I tend to want to be on the preventive end of illness. So I went into public health, and that is where I stayed. I retired from actually clinic nursing and clinic management in 2020. And now I lead a nonprofit. The nonprofit's called Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, and it is located in Illinois. I was able to retire from nursing, doing direct patient care and clinic management in 2020, and I pivoted immediately to work in a nonprofit as the president and CEO. The nonprofit is called Plant-Based Nutrition Movement, and just like it says, we help people move from really terrible ways of eating, highly processed, animal-centric, high-fat diets, as far along the continuum toward whole food, plant-based, vegan as we can. That's our logo on the bottom. 6 Million Seeds is a project that we created in 2021, specifically to work with children. I started my plant-based journey when I was 15. I have no conflicts of interest to declare. That's something that a medical professional has to say. And that means that no pharmaceutical company is paying me $50,000 to be here. I wish I had that problem, but I do not. And I don't foresee having that problem anytime soon. I'm also, as a medical professional, I just need to know, I'll answer any questions you have, absolutely 100%. But I'm not able to give specific advice about your particular health conditions, right? Just to keep that clear and straight. But I'm happy to talk about anything that you want to talk about. These are just a couple of QR codes so that you can get more information than I can possibly deliver in this hour and change presentation. These are primarily resources from the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, of which I am a member. This is just information on our social media. Please scan, like, share. Only because we don't get any money from it, trust me. But it does help us expand our reach and get the message out to more people. And that is our ultimate goal. So a little bit about our nonprofit, the work that we do. The 6 Million Seeds Project is a project that we created in 2021 because in 2020, when COVID hit, we saw that the people who are dying and having the worst outcomes were the people that always die and have the worst outcomes. They're the people who have the hardest, most difficulty getting in for services. They're also people who have what we call comorbidities. They have heart disease, high blood pressure, diabetes, cancers, asthma, all those things, emphysema, whatever. Those are the people that were dying and having the toughest time with COVID. So we sort of realized that one way to make it easier for people to survive these illnesses was to start with children and teach children young about what is real food. And that is something that wakes me up in the morning and puts me to bed at night, just teaching children about food. So it's called 6 Million Seeds, 6 because there are 6 plant-based food groups. That's fruits, vegetables, nuts, and seeds, whole grains, beans, and mushrooms. That's the way we count them. Seeds is an acronym, Students Educated in Environment, Diet, and Sustainability. So we go into classrooms, boys and girls clubs, faith-based organizations, anywhere children are already collected, and we teach them from a curriculum about the importance of these 5 aspects of food. And million because that's the smallest power of 10 that we need to make a difference for children's health in this country. So I'm going to tell you a little story. My husband, you saw, he got laid over here. And I want to thank you for this beautiful lei, which miraculously matches my outfit, which is so important to me. I love to match all the time. So thank you for the lei. It's beautiful. Anyway, so here's a true story. That's my husband, Jeff. Obviously, that's me. We've been together for almost 30 years. Against the odds, trust me. I tried to get rid of him, but he wouldn't go away. So he's still here, and I love him to pieces. He's the light of my life. So Jeff is a born and raised, dyed-in-the-wool Wisconsin meat and cheese head. Okay? And those are his words, not mine. When I met him something close to 30 years ago, all he ate was burgers, brats, fries, eggs and bacon, coffee, and Dr. Pepper. Oh, wait, there was pizza, cheese, sausage, mushroom, and black olive pizza. And we did that diet every day for a long time. I started the plant-based journey when I was 15, like I said. But Jeff is tough, and he held on. He was tenacious. He would not give in, even though I talked to him a lot about it. And in fact, when we first met, this actually was 25 years worth of time that we were together. I used to tell him at least twice a week, that is not going to end well. That meat and cheese diet you're doing is it's not going to be good. But he's tough, like I said, and amazing. He's an amazing, amazing man. So he held on, and he would laugh me off and just say, you know what, don't worry about it. I like eating burgers and fries and cheese pizza every Friday night. So that's what we did. One time I did the math exactly how many times I had spoken to him, just because I'm that kind of person, you know. I need to validate myself. So I thought, okay, let's say I went for 25 years, and let's say I talked to him twice a week for 25 years. And let's say I took 2 weeks off per year for vacation, which I never would. But let's say I did that. That would mean in the course of 25 years, I spoke to him 1,250 times about his eating habits, right? Eat more vegetables, eat more this, eat more that. And he would just laugh it off. And seriously, I'm a nurse and I'm a little bit bossy. So it was more like 3,700 times I probably talked to him, right? And he was just like, don't worry about it. You know, just give me my cheese pizza and I'm good. Well, that went on for quite a while until 2020. And there we are, locked down in the house together for more time than we probably ever spent together in the previous 25 years. And I convinced him to get a coronary artery calcium scan because I want to know if he's going to be okay. He's a huge part of my life, right? So after a few arguments about that, he did finally go get the coronary artery calcium scan, and it indicated that he had a moderate to severe risk of coronary artery disease. That sent us to, thankfully, a plant-based cardiologist who happened to be in our town. And the cardiologist told him, just go whole food plant-based. You don't need any meds. You don't need any rehab. Just go whole food plant-based and listen to your wife. It's like, yes, score, right? So at least for me, that felt like a victory. It probably didn't really feel like a victory for Jeff. And in the course of the COVID time and all that we all endured during that, life intervened. He started out really, really strong in the plant-based life. But honestly, Jeff, he never was a vegetable eater, even though when he was a kid, he had a grandpa who was a serious, big-time farmer. Even though they had like 2 acres of land, they had a 2-acre garden, and his grandpa would farm and yield all these amazing vegetables. But over years, Jeff's diet willed down to what I described already. As COVID wound on, Jeff never really adopted the whole food plant-based way. He sort of started out pretty strong, but pretty soon with all the stressors, and he runs his own business, and he's a great provider. He's a great dad. He started sort of leaning more into vegan junk food. Anybody here familiar with vegan junk food? Yeah, we're all familiar with that. Like cashew milk ice cream. Who doesn't like that? right? Snickerdoodles, yeah, we love those. Chips, Fritos, yeah, those are Twizzlers, yep, all those are vegan. Oreos, great vegan food, right? Not particularly health promoting, however. So Jeff leaned into some of those things, and fast forward 2 years, and Jeff started feeling some discomfort in his arms one day. He let that run for about 4 days, and we went to bed one night. Now remember, I'm a nurse, right? Go to bed that night, and about 2:00 in the morning, he wakes me up and says, "Do you think if I take some Advil, this pain in my arms will go away?" And I thought to myself, probably not. But what I said out loud was, you can try. He went downstairs, he got some Advil, took it, came back upstairs, and as he's huffing and puffing to get up the stairs, I hear him say, "Meryl, how do you know if you're having a heart attack?" Okay, full disclosure, I was pissed off, so angry. And I said, "That's how you know you're having a heart attack, because you think you are." So it turned into a 911 call, 2 ambulance rides to the hospital, a cardiac cath, 3 days in ICU, a stent, and $150,000 later. Thank goodness we have insurance that covered the vast majority of that. But it proved that he had a 100% blocked artery, the right coronary artery, and a 70% block in the LAD, which is the widowmaker. Thankfully, he survived it, and you can see he's pretty much the picture of health these days. But that was quite an eye-opener for both of us. After 3,700 times of talking to him about his diet, I had gotten to the point where I didn't want to be a nag anymore, right? I just don't want to do that. You want to eat snickerdoodle ice cream? Go ahead, right? Anyway, after his cardiac event, we wound up back at the cardiologist, and the cardiologist told him, you dodged the bullet that time. I got one more recommendation, and that is, seriously, go whole food, plant-based, give up the plant-based junk, stay the path, and listen to what your wife says. Listen, do what she says. She knows what she's talking about. Whatever happened there flipped the switch for Jeff. And he has since been eating really, really well. So he went from a diet of 4 green beans on his plate at a time only, or maybe 2 asparagus spears at a time only. No lettuce, no cabbage, no tomatoes, no fruit except pears. He was drinking more water by then. Very limited. He went from that to now he actually sits and eats salad that, hallelujah, actually have lettuce in it, not just M&Ms, right? So it made a difference. But what I can tell you is I would love to think that I was the reason that he changed, right? Because 3,700 times, for crying out loud, that should be enough. But no, that was not the case. What is Jeff's passion and his why is that he's a hobby pilot, and he also restores these airplanes. He's amazing in his skills and abilities, his artistic talent. This is what made the difference for him. So when he had the heart attack and he got a stent placed, it meant that he lost his medical clearance to fly. So he could no longer be pilot in command or fly solo. Let me tell you, it's a sad, sad day when a pilot gets their wings clipped, and really hard on the spouse. So that became his why. I can also tell you more about that. He was determined to get his medical clearance reinstated, and I'll tell you a little more of the story. The rest of the story is a little bit later in the presentation. So let's look at the rest of the world. Currently, the majority of people, at least in the United States and most of the westernized world, and we're creeping to spread this kind of illness around the world, most of us are malnourished, right? 67% of children's calories come from calorie-rich and processed crap, right? So pizzas, mac and cheese, any kind of chips and fatty foods, animal products, highly processed stuff, that's what most of our kids are eating. And it's the same for adults. It's the same. We eat the same stuff all the time. So based on anyone's assessment, our nutritional status is pretty much abysmal. And it doesn't matter about what your income level is or your educational level or if your parents are married or not or what zip code you live in or if you go to church or if you have a dog or any of that. Our nutritional status in the United States is horrible. We are either undernourished, meaning that we're lacking in certain vitamins and minerals, or we are overnourished, which is evidenced by overweight and obesity, or it's a combination of the two things. You're not getting nutrients, but you're still getting a lot of calories, right? So in, 2019, the CDC reported that 53.8% of adults age 18 to 34 had at least one chronic illness, and 22.3 had more than one chronic illness. And it's coming from the food. These are food-borne illnesses that our diet creates, right? Right now, over half the millennial generation, that's people born between 1981 and 1996, so they're age 24 to 42, have a chronic disease that can be traced back to lifestyle and eating patterns. So this is the brutal reality for all families. And many of us are living with these chronic lifestyle illnesses. If it's not us, it's our family members, it's our loved ones, it's our neighbors. And I'll tell you, so as a public health nurse, what that means is I work, at least traditionally, I worked with the poorest of the poor, people who had very limited resources and difficulty getting into medical care. And what's happening in our current political environment, we are seeing cuts to school food programs, cuts to food pantry dollars, cuts to farmer subsidies, increased food insecurity, cuts to mental health programs that are delivered in public health departments, cuts to vaccine clinics, loss of jobs and income, and the rewriting of history to remove certain groups from the books to say that they ever contributed anything at all. And these types of things are called political determinants of health. So when you have a government that is basically ratcheting down what's available to help keep people healthy, you will eventually see illness in the population. This is well documented. So we have to do everything we can to make a difference for people. Help us stay as healthy as we can. So in health equity, where you're working with very poor people, food is a way to close the gap. If we can get people to eat healthy food, we can stop some of these illnesses, the heart disease, the high blood pressure, the cancers, the diabetes, obesity, and so many more. But food is important. So the CDC has told us that our children are going to die younger, and they're not going to die of old age, right? It gives me chills every time I say this, but they have decreased our children's life expectancy 4 times in the last 6 years, between 2015 and 2021. Yes. Horrifying. So these little guys are not expected to anyway, grow to be as old as I am. How is that okay? How is that okay? I it's something I can't be with. I can't live with that. So it causes me to fight during the day for these guys. Let me paint a picture for you. We have 73 million children in America, and 67% of their calories are derived from ultra-processed foods. Little typo in my slide there. 95% of the kids and people in general, actually, are deficient in fiber, and fiber only comes from plants, right? Unless you're getting it out of a Metamucil bottle. or something like that, fiber 1 or one of those. So what we're seeing here, like I said, are the effects of a highly processed diet with very minimal plant fiber. Nearly all of the children in this country, on islands, on protectorates, on properties that the U.S. protects, and on the mainland, suffer from nutritional insecurity, right? So they are always lacking in vitamins, and some of them are actually just lacking in food in general. Now, as adults, we have a right and responsibility to know that our kids grow best and learn best when they eat healthy food. That's not a mystery, right? But somehow we're missing the boat on that completely. Mostly they're eating very poor quality foods. And just in general, no fiber. It's only gotten worse since COVID when McDonald's would deliver to your door, or you could get Grubhub and it would deliver to your door, or DoorDash or whatever to deliver, and anybody could order it. My nieces and nephews used to order bags of candy to be delivered to their home. So it's gotten a little bit crazier. Now, children have neither autonomy or agency, and they're our most vulnerable population, and that's just by developmental ability, status, right? They're little and they need protection and help, and by law. So they're dependent all the time on the environment and the people around them. Yet we have a societal norm of feeding children very poor quality food. That's what we do. And it doesn't matter where they are. It doesn't matter if they're in school, or if they're in church, or if they're on vacation, or if they're at home, if they're at their grandparents' house, if they're at a birthday party, or it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We have this habit of doing this to our children. And this cultural norm of feeding the children for quality food basically puts them at extremely high risk for metabolic and chronic illnesses. And when you think of food in America, I want you to shout it out. For kids, what do you think of? Cereal, beautiful. Chicken McNuggets. French fries. Hamburgers. Heck yeah, pizza. Mac and cheese. Yes, indeed, hot dogs. You're nailing it. This is what they eat every day. That's it, right? Except there will be some cow's milk in there, usually, to go with the cereal, right? There's usually ice cream, a lot of ultra-processed stuff, right? That's what we feed them. Our goal as parents, I'm so sorry to say this, but many parents, the goal is to get something cheap, quick, and easy that they can put on the table, feed the children, that they're likely to eat, they're not going to waste, get them to eat, do their homework, take a shower, go to bed, start over tomorrow, right? Maybe spend a little quality time with the kids, play a little bit, but then it's time for bed, and that's how that goes. So we have traded our children's health, and actually our own health, for cheap, quick, and easy ultra-processed food. And that's what it looks like. So our families have to fight pretty hard to avoid this eating pattern. And the unconscious default is these things. And even parents that know better fall into this trap, right? And it just grows. We all know that processed meats were declared carcinogenic 10 years ago. But we're still feeding our children these foods in schools every day, right? Pepperoni, what's that other one? Corn dogs, hot dogs, all of this. And then we wring our hands and wonder, why are our children so ill? So this is how it looks. This is a graph of overweight and obesity in children. You can see bottom end of the graph there, around about 1970, it starts to make a dramatic climb, almost a 45-degree angle. That's what's happening with overweight and obesity. Now we can match overweight and obesity and diabetes and use those as proxies for heart disease, high blood pressure, and high cholesterol. This is diabetes. Now, it's really hard to find current graphs on this stuff. I don't quite know why. Why don't they make this stuff easier to find? But this is the most recent graph I could find. And you can see how that looks. This is children. This stuff makes my jaw drop. Blows me away. Now, we could look at these two graphs and say, because we know obesity and diabetes run in packs, right? They run with high blood pressure and heart disease and high cholesterol. So all those things are happening at the same time for our children. All food borne. I'll just let you read those slides. That's the evidence. An estimated 29.7 million people with diabetes. Crazy. Used to be known as adult onset diabetes type 2. Now it's just type 2 because children get it. They have actually found fatty streaks in children's coronary arteries as young as at birth. At birth. Crazy, right? Am I the only one who's appalled by this? It's so shocking. But there was actually a study that came out coming up on a year ago where they looked at the diet of pregnant women. If the women were eating a lot of saturated animal fat products and ultra-processed foods and all that, their infants were born with fatty streaks in their arteries, which is literally the beginning of heart disease at infancy. And if they continue that pattern of eating, which is probably pretty predictable, then, you're having things like obesity and diabetes and high blood pressure and heart disease by the time they're 15 or so. Another interesting study, obesity and overweight. Used to be, we've seen that in the population for some time, but the American Academy of Pediatrics didn't do anything about it for a long time. And just in 2023, they came out with their first guidance ever on what pediatricians should do when a little person comes in and they're already diagnosed at 95% of weight for height, meaning they're obese. What we do is we watch them. And we encourage the parents to keep the child away from screens and maybe go outside some and come in for office visits once every 2 weeks, so 26 times in a year. I don't know anybody that has time for that. If the child gets to be 12 years old and is still obese, we can offer them weight loss medications like Ozempic or Wegovy, or one of those other ones. I don't even know the name of them. There's quite a few now, the GLP ones. If that child is still obese by the time they get to be 13 years old, we can offer them bariatric surgery. Yes, we can cut out part of their stomach instead. Actually, just by weird chance, I spend way too much time studying these kinds of things. But within the last, I'm going to say 3 years, the CDC removed or started backing down the developmental milestones for our children. So speech is not expected to develop as we probably thought it should and did. They've taken crawling off the developmental milestone list. I wish. We have to do better. Instead of, if you've got a group of kids who are not meeting the milestones, we don't just take it off. You pour into the child, right? You try and do better, but that's not how it's happening. All right, behavioral health. These are other issues that children face. Those top 5 are the most commonly diagnosed disorders in children. 1 in 6 U.S. children aged 2 to 8 years have a diagnosed mental, behavioral, or developmental disorder. And 1 in 36 children have been diagnosed with some form of autism. This is the autism graph. Okay, now we know autism is a very complex constellation of symptoms. It's a disorder, right? No two children with autism present in the same way. So how does it affect them? How does food affect a child? Causes inflammation that crosses the blood-brain barrier, causing pressure inside the brain, alters composition of the gut microbiome, which alters the conversation that happens internally between the gut and the brain. Okay, just really quickly. And if I can read these things, I may not be able to because my print is too small. These are 10 impacts of eating animal-based foods, mostly animal muscle. So you'll see, and I'm not going to go through each one, but it causes increase in carcinogens and cancers, free radicals, inflammation in the body, endotoxins from slaughterhouse. That means bacteria that survive past regular cooking. And if some of them are like Pseudomonas and Shigella and E. coli, which would cause a restaurant to be shut down, but those bacteria are present in every slaughterhouse and in every piece of meat. TMAO, I'll just let you look through here. Enough is enough of that, right? So we are causing these illnesses in the population and in our children. And what happens is when a child eats these foods, it is a major impact. All these things happen at once and their bodies are so small and growing so quickly that it causes even more hardship on the body. So, what can we do about it? We have to have some good news in here, right? We can do something about it. This was a graphic that came out from the CDC back in February of 2023, right about the same time as they wrote that the American Academy of Pediatrics wrote the guidance on what to do with obesity. So this is a graphic that says basically 1 in 2 children do not eat a daily vegetable. And this is a study they did over some massive number of children all across the country, nationally representative. And 1 in 3 kids do not eat a daily fruit. That was from a retrospective where they asked the parents to look at what the children had eaten in the past 7 days. So that was past 7 days. The question is how many sets of 7 days had the children not had fruits or vegetables? Was it 2 sets, 5 sets, 10 sets, 21 sets? We won't know. But this is the CDC recommending that children get fruits and vegetables. So that's one thing. Just start piling on the fruits and vegetables. This is a study that came from Bergoglio. It's published in the journal Nutrients about finding neurotransmitters in food. So acetylcholine, and I am not a neuro nurse, so I definitely have to read my notes on this. What they looked at was a bunch of studies that had already been done to locate these neurotransmitters in food, right? Acetylcholine is related to memory, motivation, arousal, and attention, and is essential to learn discrimination tasks, right? So telling one thing from another. GABA helps reduce nerve excitability and helps provide a calming environment on the central nervous system. You can see where these neurotransmitters are available. So you could see acetylcholine, which is important in memory, motivation, arousal, and attention. Oranges, beans, spinach, zucchini, wild strawberries. Some of these things we don't even recognize as food anymore because we don't eat them. Not to say that they aren't food, but we just don't eat them. GABA is available in like broccoli and beans and tomatoes and maypop, Important, very important. We don't feed our children these things though. Dopamine and serotonin. So dopamine is responsible for allowing us to feel pleasure, satisfaction, and motivation. And serotonin helps regulate attention, behavior, and body temperature, digestive processes, blood flow, regulating satisfaction, happiness, and optimism versus depression. Look where these are found. We could help our children and ourselves a great deal if we just ate like this. They call us a dopamine nation because our big food manufacturers spend millions and millions and millions of dollars with scientists in a lab to create foods that will cause a small pop of dopamine in the brain when we eat them, right? The bliss point, we call that. Well, we could have some bananas. How about some strawberries or what is that, like cayenne pepper? I love that stuff. There's 2 more, glutamate and histamine. Now, these are ones that we usually have like negative associations with, right? Glutamate's associated with monosodium glutamate, like Chinese food, nonsense things, right? But that's what we associate it with. It is an important neurotransmitter. It's needed to keep the brain functioning properly. It shapes learning and memory. But you can see where we would get that. So processed tomato products, salami, dried cured meat, fish, savory snacks. And histamine has the most negative reputation. That's what we're always taking Benadryl or Claritin or something else for. It produces itching and inflammation, runny nose, and watery eyes. But it's also important in sleep and digestion. But look where we're getting those things: sausages, fish, dairy products, alcoholic beverages, ketchup. Now, when we have a child or an adult who presents with those diagnoses on the far side, ADHD, anxiety, depression, or bipolar disorder, we are seeking by medication to change the relative levels of those neurotransmitters. Does that make sense? So for ADHD, we want to increase dopamine and increase norepinephrine. Let's say for depression, we want to increase serotonin, increase dopamine, decrease histamine. Make sense? See, the bipolar is a little bit more complex. We could give ourselves and our children the best chance possible if we just feed them these things. Set them up for success. Stack the deck in their favor, at least. I mean, they may still need medication. I'm a good nurse, medication has its place. But we could do a lot to make a difference for our children and ourselves if we suffer from these things. So the goal is eat more of the rainbow every day. They say 30 different plants per week, I think it is one of the recommendations. That's one thing we can do just to get ourselves out of this chronic illness trap. All colors, all parts, all 6 groups. It's literally food is medicine. Food is medicine. And to deprive our children of this, to deprive ourselves of this, is a whole different spin on malnutrition. We are not feeding our children or ourselves what we need. And if you are somebody who doesn't like to eat certain groups, like maybe you don't like mushrooms, I encourage you to try them. Try them. It takes, I know it's big people food, but you can do it. Chop them up real small, get them dehydrated, make mushroom powder, do something, get all of the food groups in. Eat the leaves, the roots, the shoots, the flowers, the bark, whatever you can. Eat all of it because all of it is medicine and provides certain different nutrients that we need. Okay, so I have the privilege to go into schools, like I said, with the 6 Million Seeds Project. And one of the things that we get to do is work with these gorgeous, gorgeous children. We get to teach them to cook, encourage them to eat things like mushrooms, which they really don't want to eat. But they enjoy it. We play games, we make it silly, we make it fun. There's no requirement for them to eat anything, right? Just say, try it. You might like it. Okay, you don't want to try it, just squish it. Smell it. How does it feel? Okay, you feel really brave, just lick it. Just do that. You don't like it? Okay, throw it away. We'll try again next week. These are little ones playing food art with hummus and vegetables. I love these little faces. They're so beautiful. This was a blindfold, blind taste test game that we played. So we would put some form of whatever. It might be limes, or it might be black olives. It might be cauliflower. It might be beets, watermelon radishes. Put them in the child's hand and say, okay, on 3, taste it. Oh my gosh, it's so fun. So they would put it in their mouth, and sometimes they'd be like, this is a lime. This is an olive. A lot of times they didn't like it, but it's always about encouraging them to be brave and encouraging them to try something they never tried and reminding them that maybe they never had that in their mouth before. But that's okay. Their mouth can get used to trying new things. And then we also always remember, we don't usually tell the kids this, it can take up to 20 times for a child to taste something before they'll really accept it. So we play a lot of games. It's also a way to do positive peer pressure. We work in schools, we play games, we talk about the microbiome. We make it fun and easy. Oh my gosh, such beautiful babies. You know, these are kids who, when we first walk in, they're like, I don't eat that. And by maybe the fifth or so time, they're like, what do you got? We want it. It's so fun. We inspire them with wonder. Try it out. Try it out. You want to, they were making an apple, beet, and carrot salad with a vinaigrette kind of dressing. This little guy who's standing up right here, he didn't want to eat anything. He didn't know. No, he was a pure, like, chicken nugget guy, right? But he was really happy to work with the graters and grate up the carrots and grate the beets. And there's apples there. They were trying that. Did they like it? No, they really hated it. It's great. It's wonderful. Oh my gosh. So much fun. We also encourage them to do some critical thinking and connecting the dots, that's a seed, and that seed grows into a plant, and that plant will bear the same fruit as the seed. That's actually a garbanzo bean. Amazing. Beans are seeds. We get them to think about it. Children are really very curious, and they want to know. They still want to know. They're deeply curious. And if you can connect the dots about your food system and how the food that we eat actually impacts the planet, and how what we do to the planet impacts the animals and vice versa, it's all connected. That's where you'll get them. This is how you hook a child. Encourage them to grow plants. If you only have space to put a styrofoam cup with a couple of seeds in it, or a small parsley plant, do that. They'll very happily try that the next time that you make something for them. They like colors, and they eat with their eyes first. So this is a rainbow, taste the rainbow experience that we had. That's the red table there. They really liked the strawberries, and the blood oranges were good. They did not like the tart cherries. And they were very clear about that. That's okay. There's that same little guy who couldn't eat anything when we first met him. Devastated the salad bar by about the fourth or fifth time we were in there. We would bring in, on average, about $300 worth of groceries every month for a classroom to make sure they had healthy snacks 2 to 3 times a week. So that was their grocery haul. We also get to go into other locations, like, thank you very much for inviting me to be here to speak on the subject of child nutrition. So I do presentations at nursing conferences and school food service conferences and all kinds of places. Any place, like I said, if I can get 10 people together who wants to hear about this, I'll talk to you all day. This is a program that we started related to a change in the school food law that occurred in Illinois. In Illinois right now, they have changed their school lunch law. They amended it so that any child who wants a plant-based lunch can receive it at no extra cost. Yes, the angels are singing. Absolutely. Absolutely. So we created a website. We work with other nonprofits because it's impossible to do this work all by myself. Just one nonprofit by ourselves, it's just way too much work. So we work with this other nonprofit, and we created this website called More Plants on Plates. And that's how we encourage adults and children to sign up for the plant-based lunches. Some challenges that we faced. There's always this persistent targeted marketing toward children. And that is very difficult to push back against. There's a societal investment, like I said, to feeding children these terrible foods. And school food is not any better. We created also, as part of the project, we have a podcast, and we have this collaborative effort, learning podcasting as a whole thing by itself. So that was quite a curve. And then just creating the court consortium and the collaborative effort took some work. And actually now it's more than 3 years, but we've gotten this message to more than 10 million people about the importance of plant-based foods. Yeah, we're very grateful to be able to do the work. Right now we have 17 or 18 pilot site schools. So with that More Plants on Plates project, we provide micro grants to schools, about $2,500 a year for them. Well, shorter than that, actually, maybe like 10 weeks, to encourage them to provide the plant-based lunches for everybody on their campus. And we have had about 17 schools now go through it. Lessons learned. Got to be brave, putting yourself out there, be bold, got to collaborate, be persistent, and all opportunities to provide child nutrition are valuable. We'll talk about it all the time. One thing I can say from working with these children is when you get them to eat healthy food and they begin to make the connections between what they eat and the planet and the animals, those are transformed children. Those are very different children. They start feeling empowered and they start asking questions about the food that they eat. So we encourage them to be strong and be brave. And sometimes the hardest people to convince are the teachers and the food service staff. So what do? Always, every time, in every moment, whenever it's an option, encourage the children to eat plant-based. Eat fresh fruit. Eat greens. Greens are okay. They're not scary, right? Try that mushroom. It's something, right? So we say, be a Brussels sprout booster, be a mushroom maniac, a nut, a tangerine dream, be a whole grain hooligan, be a bean behemoth. Just do it. Encourage them. You have to, oh yes, and you have to model the behavior. Don't think you're going to give them broccoli and you're going to have pizza. That's not going to work. Totally not going to work. If you go out to a restaurant, but you guys are a warm audience, all this, get plant-based food and make that the norm. And if you go someplace and they don't have plant-based food, ask for it anyway. And if they don't have it, walk out. This is from Kaiser Permanente, their plant-based plate. This is what they recommend. They say that plant-based food, a well-planned plant-based diet, whole food plant-based diet, is appropriate for any person at any stage of life. So from pregnant women, infants are mostly drinking milk, of course, but by the time they start eating whole foods, solids, we can start with these. Teenagers, athletes, elderly people, full-grown people. This is just fine. Takes a little study, a little building of skills, but it's not hard. We do not ever recommend dairy, not even for children. In fact, I'll just say one thing about that. So in the school lunch programs, milk is, required. It happens. It gets put on the child's plate or tray, whether they ask for it or not in a lot of cases. And in so many cases, about somewhere between 80 and 95% of children of color cannot really digest dairy products. I am one of those children. But when you're putting that milk on the child's plate, it's in school and it's a learning and I'm supposed to drink it because that's what they say. And we have had more than one child have upset stomach, diarrhea, soil themselves in class because of drinking milk and dairy products. So we don't ever recommend dairy products just as a matter of respect and dignity for the children. Reading labels to check ingredients, you can always do this. Make sure avoid the artificial ingredients, avoid the things that you can't pronounce, and the things that you can pronounce that say red dye 40 or blue 17 or titanium or, tartrazine, please avoid those things. Those just make it very hard for a child. Makes it hard for them to sit and focus and listen and attend. Very difficult in school. These are swaps that you can make. And if we did, and I'm sorry, I'm going to cry. If we did, could we stop these pandemics that put our children so far back? that hurt so many hundreds of thousands, millions of people. We could stop this. We could prevent these illnesses. We could bring back diversity. We could make the world beautiful. Okay, the rest of Jeff's story. So Jeff did a great job, changed his diet, and he regained his medical clearance to fly. So he is currently no longer on any medications for his heart, no longer taking high blood pressure medication. He may still be taking a baby aspirin. Not sure about that. But he's able to fly solo these days. Every now and then I'll go up with him. That doesn't happen too often, to be honest. But he's back in the captain's seat, right? So let's say that's a whole food, plant-based win, 100%. He is absolutely a poster child for this, for managing and reversing heart disease with plants basically alone. So we could enrich our children. We could teach them to prevent and reverse. They don't ever have to have diabetes. They don't ever have to be obese. They don't ever have to deal with anxiety and depression. And I'm not saying food is all of it, but food's a lot of it. We could raise our children to be healthy and vibrant, to grow into healthy, wildly successful adults who fight for a healthy planet. That's what I'm after. If I could do that in my lifetime, it would be a life worth living. Just for giggles, we do a child nutrition summit on average once a year. This meme is from 2024, but we're also doing it this coming December 5th through 8th, same dates in 2025. Save the date. I'll put it out on social media, and you're all welcome. It's a free online 3 to 4 day event where we talk about what happens in schools, how to keep your children healthy, what happens to the planet, and how to keep it live and sustaining. Please, again, QR code if you want more resources than you can possibly use. There's a lot of resources. I don't want anybody to get overwhelmed. And this is how to find us on social media. If you ever just want to email directly, I'm happy to take emails all the time. Or you can call me. I answer the phone even if I don't know the number. And that's it. Thank you so much. I'm happy to take questions. My pleasure. Yes. So when we're in a school classroom like that, that was an 8-session, once a month kind of event all year long, the school teacher is in the room. And her job, aside from having us there and being hospitable to us, is that she's feeding the kids healthy plant-based snacks 2 to 3 times a week. So she is fully aware of what we're doing. We run all the, she does. Yeah. She teaches them. So for example, in one of the lessons we were talking about the impact of our diet on the planet. She spent 2 weeks, it was during April, which made it great for, Earth Month. She spent 2 weeks before our lesson teaching them about what's going on in the rainforest and animals that are they're having their, going extinct and different things like that. So yes, we do work with the teachers. Yes, that does happen. The USDA is who creates a My Plate. They create that. They tell our population what we're supposed to eat. And they also are heavily lobbied by the Dairy Association, right? If you are somebody who wants to talk to somebody at the USDA, you pay something like $20,000 and you can get an hour of their time. The USDA also has that 2-prong requirement. You guys are familiar with this, right? That one part is we're supposed to make sure the people know what to eat. And the second part is we need to make sure the farmers have a market for their products. So it's a conflict of interest, right? Right there. Another thing is that, so I'm in a collaborative that is a food system-based collaborative in Northern Illinois. And it's literally all local farmers or nonprofits like ours. It's not more than this many people in the room, not maybe that many people get together and we talk about food system issues. The last meeting we had, someone from the Midwest Dairy Association showed up. This is a common practice also. Dairy associations put people on school boards. They put people anywhere that there's a chance that there will be food discussed, to make sure that that dairy message is delivered all the time. And the lady at the meeting that I was at said, full disclosure, she was very clear about it. My goal is to get as many people, many school children to take fluid milk as possible. So if you are working with a school or you are working with another nonprofit, get an MOU. That's a memorandum of understanding, because not all, you can start out with the best of intentions and everything looks like it's lining up and good. And somewhere along the lines, it just seems like maybe you shouldn't work together anymore, or you've accomplished the task and you want to separate. It's good to have a MOU so you know what terms you're working under. That's what that is. Okay, so let's say we're working with children, because we do a lot. If they say, okay, so up in Illinois where I am, there's a lot of African American and a lot of Latinos, right? If they say, next time you come, can you bring guacamole and tacos? Heck yeah, we're going to bring guacamole and tacos. So we let them lead, right? One time we were talking about the rainforest, and one little girl out of the clear blue says, we would like frozen acai bowls. I'm like, okay, heck yeah, we'll do that for you. So the next time we came, we brought acai and, bananas and mangoes and things like that. So that's what that means. Just, it's not I almost want to call that like a paternalistic kind of thing, where we say we have the answer and we're going to give it to you because we know what's best, even though that's really typical with working with children for sure, right? But every now and then, it's great to let the kids lead so that they can feel like they have some investment in what's going on. Well, thank you all so much. This has been literally a trip of a lifetime for Jeff and myself to come. I'm so happy to be here with you all and to share this. This is like the culmination of my life. This is my life's work. So happy, so happy. If you're like a crazy nerd like me and you like references, have at it, take pictures. My pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Aloha, Meryl Fury, for this inspiring and informative presentation. Mahalo to everyone for coming today. Have a safe return home. Aloha.